Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? In chatting with a couple people in the group, talking about the Vietnam Dong, you can understand that a lot of people feel frustrated and about to give up hope when it comes to the Vietnam Dong. That's because a lot of people don't really talk about it. They don't hype it up like they do the Iraqi dinar. And if we're being honest, there has been a lot of exciting news involving the Iraqi dinar, okay, especially lately. But people tend to forget that Vietnam Dong was on a serious run in 2022. We're going to cover that right now, and I'll explain to you why you shouldn't give up too much hope on Vietnam Dong. Before we get started, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, check out our friends at Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you are a first-time buyer and you spend more than $200, you will get an additional ½ ounce of silver with your order. Just follow the link down below in the description. No promo codes are needed. You can find me on other social media platforms like Facebook. I do have my own group called Pimpy's Investment Chat. Over here we do talk about gold, silver, cryptocurrency, as well as foreign currency investments and any other investments you wish to talk about. Come on over here. It's free to join. Just follow the link down below in the description. I can be found on Twitter, MeWe, YouTube, Odyssey, and now Rumble. Yes, that's right. I finally got a Rumble. And in addition to that, you can find me over here at Pimpy's News Network. If I should ever get kicked off of YouTube, you can find me on any other one of these platforms. So come join me. It's free to do so. The links for all these locations are down below in the description. So come on over and join me. And for those of you who are interested in this, there is some unreleased video of what happened on January 6th that helps blow away a lot more of this narrative that's been pushed on us for the past 2 years. It's worth taking a look at. Some of it is pretty sad to see. We're talking about people who were killed that were Trump supporters that nobody talks about. What you're being told about what happened on January 6th it's political. So I encourage you guys to head on over to Pimpy's News Network, check it out for yourself, and you make your own decision. Okay, so the World Bank forecasts Vietnam's 2023 growth at 6.3%. Last year was at 8%. Vietnam's economic growth is projected to ease to 6.3% in 2023 from a robust 8% last year, as services growth moderates and higher prices and interest rate weigh on households and investors, according to the World Bank report released on March 13th. Not to mention the Silicon Valley Bank really did a dinger to Vietnam for more than one reason. But Vietnam has a response for that. And hopefully they do this. We'll get into that here in just a second. But look, the growth for Vietnam was supposed to be at 6.3%. I thought it was going to be a little bit higher. As a matter of fact, I still anticipate it being higher with this move they're about to do. Now, the reason why the percentage is not higher than 6.3% has a lot to do with the fact that the United States keeps claiming that the U.S. dollar is stronger and stronger. And so it is draining Vietnam of its foreign asset reserves because they have to use those to protect their own currency, the Vietnam Dong, against the U.S. dollar. But things have stabilized, and it looks like it's starting to turn around just a little bit. So as the U.S. dollar starts to lose purchasing powers, I expect these other currencies to go up against them. In its Taking Stock Reports March 2023 edition, entitled Harnessing the Potential of the Service Sector for Future Growth, the World Bank provided recommendations for reforms to tap into the potential of the service sector. Well, one of the biggest moneymakers for Vietnam is their tourism. And Vietnam is definitely one of those places I myself want to go to. It said that the service sector will grow moderately, mostly driven by domestic demand, which may be affected by higher estimate inflations of 4.5% this year. Notice how they're in single digits. They're only at 4.5%. So they've been fighting inflation going up, and they've been fighting the devaluing of their currency because of the U.S. dollar. The economy is expected to benefit from part of the 2022 and 2023 economic support program. A flexible monetary policy, in combination with fiscal policy objectives, should keep domestic inflation in check. So Vietnam having this low of inflation is really, really good. Unfortunately for Vietnam, just like a lot of other countries, A lot of things really depend on what happens to the U.S. dollar. And I know they're going to fight like hell and try to claim this is strong dollar in the whole 9 yards. It's not. It's already faltering. We're seeing banks collapse. We're seeing 30 banks on the stock exchange had their trading stopped by the New York Stock Exchange, which I don't understand how they could do that. And they're talking about how they're going to bail them out. What most people don't understand is the HSBC might have bought out Silicon Valley Bank. So I said this was going to happen, and that is you're going to start seeing more mergers take place. They'll make every excuse in the world how these other banks need to come in to bail these guys out, and therefore the merger makes sense. And they're just going to make your options to choose a bank less and less and less until they get you where they want you and then force you into the central bank digital currency. That's what happened in 2008. We saw a lot of mergers take place, trying to save our economy. I don't think that's the right move. We should be demanding more banks so that we have more options. Anywhere the World Bank thinks that Vietnam is going to slow down to 6.3%, I think that really just depends on what happens here. Vietnam Central Bank to cut rates on March 15th amid the SVB turmoil. So they're going to cut the interest rates, which will stimulate the economy. Vietnam Central Bank said on Tuesday it was cutting several policy rates to increase liquidity and support economic growth, in a surprise move that set it apart from regional peers amid the global turmoil caused by the fall of Silicon Valley Bank. I notice how these singular events manage to affect all kinds of issues around the world. This is the problem with globalization. This is the problem with them merging. Your options are less, and you have these big companies investing into each other. Well, if something happens to one of them, then it affects a lot of other companies. So you should have a lot more options out there, not merging them. Our government should be trying to find ways to help expand the amount of banks that are out there is what we need. But we all know they want to put us in a central bank digital currency. But Vietnam, just like China, both were affected hardcore when the SVB collapsed. A ton of other companies too, including stuff like TikTok, Airbnb, and a lot of other things like that. Wendy's news article had listed out a ton of companies that were affected by SVB. And if that's the case, then we're talking about tech companies, Silicon Valley companies. It is the first such move for Vietnam Central Bank since October 2020, and it reverses a trend of rate hikes with the last one in October 2022. The central bank justified the move, saying the country's inflation was under control. The average rate for the January-February period was 4.6% on the year, above the full-year inflation target of 4.5%. But in February, the inflation rate was 4.3%. So the Central Bank of Vietnam is going to cut their interest rates to start stimulating growth. It also said it would stay vigilant on monetary authorities around the world are still hiking interest rates with an eye on signals from the U.S. Federal Reserve's up-and-coming policy decision after the collapse of tech-focused lenders in Silicon Valley Bank. Again, they put all their eggs in one basket. If most all of Silicon Valley companies have their money in one bank, oh wow, what do you think was going to happen if it collapsed? You need a variety. The annual rediscount rate, overnight electronic interbank rate, and interest rate for loans to offset capital shortages and clearance between the central bank and domestic banks would each be cut by 1 percentage point from March 15th, the central bank said in a statement. So there you go. So they're going to cut 1 percentage point. That's actually a pretty big chunk from the clearance banks and their domestic banks. In early February, ratings agency Fitch had forecasted Vietnam would raise the policy rate by 100 basis points this year due to difficult inflation outlooks. Well, obviously that's not the case. So far, Vietnam has done better than all the other Asian countries over there as far as standing toe-to-toe with the U.S. dollar. Now, they did use up a big chunk of the reserves, but have started to regain them all over. So if you look at this 3-year chart, you can go back further than that, but I just wanted to show you something. Now here in January 2022, you can see the exchange rate is 0.00004418. You want that number to go down. That's what you wanted. You can see this started to happen. Look at the exchange rate for the Vietnam dong on the open market. It started getting stronger and stronger against the U.S. dollar. It started to get so strong against the U.S. dollar that they started manipulating their currency again. As you can see, once it got to here, which is around October of 2022, through November 2022, it is now at 0.000040. So you can see right there, you gain just a little under 10% of the value of the overall currency. So it doesn't sound like a lot because it's so devalued, but as long as you're taking a step in the right direction, that's what you want to see. Unfortunately, you can see after that, then it went right back up to here. And this is as the Fed kept going, oh, we're going to raise interest rates. Oh, we're going to raise interest rates to try to strengthen the U.S. dollar. Look, eventually all that's going to stop. The U.S. dollar is going to collapse, and it's by plan. So Vietnam Dong will gain value against the U.S. dollar as the U.S. dollar begins to crash. And I got people out there going, that's not possible because a lot of currencies are pegged to the U.S. dollar. So if the U.S. dollar crashes, so do they. Yeah, I understand that. But you also got to understand that if the U.S. dollar starts to crash too much and it starts to have an effect on those countries pegged to the U.S. dollar, well, what do you think they're going to do? They'll unpeg is what they're going to do. They'll just unpeg. So just hang tight, people. Last year was a good year for Vietnam Dong. It was really starting to kick ass. And then we started to see one rate hike after another. Look, there's a lot of fake data out there from the United States. They're doing everything they can to try to save this economy, but it's not going to work. The dollar is dead. The reserve status is dead, unfortunately. We can't get politicians on the same page. We're in a quiet civil war. Things look like crap. We got a corrupt media. We got a corrupt Wall Street. We got corrupt banking, corrupt government institutions, corrupt intelligence agencies, corrupt politicians. And it's going to stay that way till people finally get fed up and do something about it. Anyways, that's it for now, you guys. I look forward to your comments, and I'll get back at you later. I'm out.